Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a really fascinating look into the personal world of Ajahn Achalo.
Yes, specifically using excerpts from his book, 3,000 Hours of Meditation.
Right, and we're focusing on his intensive meditation retreats in Bodhgaya, India. That's,
Oh.
the place where the Buddha actually found enlightenment.
And also touching on some of his pilgrimages to other really sacred Buddhist sites.
Exactly. So think of this as, well, a way to get right to the heart of this amazing spiritual journey.
We'll cover the challenges, the breakthroughs, those real aha
Yeah,
moments.
yeah, trying to distill the key insights without, getting totally bogged down in detail. We want you to get the essence quickly.
Okay, so where do we start? The vow itself.
Let's do it. So Ajahn Achalo makes this vow, this commitment to meditate for 3,000 hours right there at the Bodhi tree in Bodhgaya.
And Bodhgaya, it's not just historically important. It's seen as cosmologically unique in Buddhism.
Oh, so?
Well, the source mentions the Dalai Lama refers to it as the Vajrasana, the indestructible seat.
Indestructible seat.
Okay. It's believed this is where all Buddhas of our cosmic age attain enlightenment, not just Gautama Buddha.
Wow, all of them.
Yes, the text even says the tradition holds that the three previous Buddhas, and also the future one, Maitreya, they all achieve Buddhahood right there.
So the spiritual significance, the potential for making merit there, it's considered off the charts, basically.
Exceptionally high, yeah.
That is.
That's the idea.
But it's not just this serene, holy place, is it? He paints a picture of really stark contrasts.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the most striking things he describes.
This intense spirituality right alongside extreme poverty.
Exactly. You have devout pilgrims, maybe quite well off, walking right past beggars who are clearly in profound need.
He mentions children with polio selling flowers for offerings. It sounds incredibly confronting.
It does. A place that feels both deeply sacred and, at the same time, really hard to witness.
So how might that kind of environment, that constant reminder of suffering, actually impact the meditation practice itself compared to, say, practicing somewhere more comfortable, more secluded?
That's a really good question. I think in that kind of setting, the external reality of suffering, of impermanence, well, you just can't ignore it.
Right. It's right there in your face.
Yeah. And if you think about core Buddhist ideas, that probably makes your own internal stuff, your attachments, your aversions, the things Buddhism says cause suffering much more obvious,
Like the external chaos mirrors your internal state.
or forces you to confront it more directly, perhaps. The source suggests that while some found it helped focus, for others, it definitely triggered some powerful emotional responses.
Okay, so let's talk about the actual practice then, the nuts and bolts.
We're talking serious commitment here, often 10 hours of sitting meditation a day.
10 hours and starting really early, like 4:45 a.m.
Sometimes, yes,
Mm-hmm.
and often finishing late. So physically demanding, mentally demanding.
What did he do to stay focused? I mean, dealing with discomfort, wandering thoughts, and all the external noise, like those devotional ceremonies, the pujas,
Well, one interesting tactic was journaling.
journaling during a retreat.
Yeah, writing things down. It seemed to be a way for him to um, recollect his intention, his reason for being there, to anchor himself when his mind drifted.
That makes sense. Kind of a practical mindfulness tool.
Exactly. A way to consciously steer the practice back on course.
And the noise you mentioned, the pujas, he had a funny name for the loud Vietnamese ones, didn't he?
He did. The screaming cat from hell protection.
Huh. But that actually points to something really important in the practice.
Absolutely. Initially, that noise was a huge annoyance for him, a major distraction.
But then he had a shift in perspective.
Yes, he realized the problem wasn't the sound itself. It was his mind's reaction to it, the aversion, the irritation that was the suffering.
Ah, okay. So it's not the external thing, it's the internal response. That feels like a key insight.
It really is. It ties right into ideas like non-attachment and equanimity.
Yeah.
You know, that mental calmness where you're not swayed by good or bad experiences.
Being able to just observe without grabbing onto the pleasant or pushing away the unpleasant.
Precisely. And the text really stresses patient endurance here. That's seen as crucial for overcoming the kilesas.
Kilesas, those are like the mental defilements, impurities.
That's right. Things like greed, hatred, delusion. Patient endurance helps wear them down. It reminds me of Ajahn Chah's advice.
From the Ovada Padimokkha.
Yeah. Eat little, sleep little, meditate a lot. It highlights that disciplined effort is needed to build that inner clarity and strength.
So beyond the sitting, there were these other sort of unexpected moments and teachings that came up.
Definitely. Like the idea of Mara.
Mara, the tempter figure in Buddhism, representing obstacles.
Right. But Ajahn Achalo talks about Mara not just as an enemy, but almost as a teacher,
A teacher. How does that work?
by showing you what not to do. By observing those negative forces, those unskillful thoughts or impulses when they arise.
Ah, you learn about your own weaknesses.
Exactly. You see the patterns of Mara, the delusion in your own mind. That awareness, that mindfulness and wisdom is what allows you to overcome it. It's a lesson in itself.
That's a fascinating way to look at challenges. And there were lighter moments too, right? Like the screaming cat thing or the pigeon.
Yes, the pigeon dropping Bodhi leaves right onto his lap.
Which he connected, potentially, to a vow he'd made.
Yeah, you'd vowed to collect 1,000 Bodhi leaves for a new chedi, a stupa or monument.
Hmm.
So maybe just a coincidence, maybe something more resonant.
It adds a touch of, well, unexpectedness, maybe even magic, amidst all the hard work.
It does. It shows that life, even in intense practice, still has these surprising, sometimes light moments.
And his interactions with the local people sound quite significant, too.
Very much so. There's a story about him singing with a young beggar girl.
Singing.
Yes, and he reflects that it was driven more by metta-loving kindness than by strict equanimity in that moment.
So showing compassion in a very direct human way.
Exactly. It shows the flexibility within the practice.
Yeah.
And he also had to navigate cultural differences, like how monastic life works in India versus Thailand.
Like having to eat in hotels sometimes.
Right, because the schedule was just so demanding, focused on the meditation of the Bodhi tree. Certain adjustments were needed to support that main goal.
It illustrates that balance, maybe, between principles and practicalities.
I think so. And balancing detachment with active compassion, like with the girl. Knowing when a situation calls for a specific response.
The role of community and support seems really important, too.
Absolutely crucial. He mentions friends and students who helped make the retreats possible.
Logistical support, things like that.
Yes. And also the shared practice with other monks, like Ajahn Achalo and Ajahn Achalo.
Ajahn Achalo is doing 12-hour sits. Wow.
Apparently so. That kind of mutual support and shared commitment must have been incredibly valuable.
That concept of Kalimata spiritual friendship, it seems central here.
It really is fundamental in Buddhism. Having others on the path, sharing the same goals, supporting each other, it helps you keep going when things get tough.
Creates a kind of positive energy field.
You could say that. It bolsters your own resolve. The text gives great examples, the monks encouraging each other, the lay people providing practical help. It's all part of it.
Of course, it wasn't all smooth sailing. He faced real difficulties, too.
Oh, yes. Persistent health problems during the intense practice, for one.
And dealing with unwanted attention, like people trying to give him money even when he was trying to be secluded.
Right. Handling those situations mindfully, according to monastic discipline, that becomes part of the practice, too.
And the story about helping Gautam, the local boy.
Yes, that illustrates the complexities that can come, even from simple acts of generosity. It's often not straightforward.
It really grounds the experience, doesn't it? Even in this intensely spiritual setting, everyday human problems are still present.
Totally. Spiritual practice doesn't happen in a bubble. Dealing with illness, social interactions, practical issues, how you meet those challenges is the practice.
The text also touches on some wider issues around Bodhgaya.
Like the security situation.
Yeah, the demolition of shops near the temple after bomb threats. That must have been unsettling.
It shows how even sacred sites are affected by wider world events and security concerns. It impacts the local community, the pilgrim's experience.
And his observations about the Bodhi seed malas being sold.
Right, pointing out they often aren't actually made from seeds of the Bodhi tree itself.
A reminder to be discerning, maybe, about commercialism in holy places.
I think so. Maintaining awareness about those kinds of things is important, too. It's all part of the complex reality of a place like Bodhgaya.
Okay, let's touch briefly on the pilgrimages he took beyond Bodhgaya.
So places like Lumbini, Sarnath, Varanasi, other key sites in the Buddha's life.
And the idea that pilgrimage itself generates significant merit seems key.
Yes, that's a strong theme. But again, not without challenges.
Like illness.
Yeah,
Accidents.
definitely. He mentions getting sick, a supporter breaking her foot, even getting bitten by a monkey.
A monkey bite, wow. But the experience in Varanasi at the Burning Ghats sounds particularly profound.
It does, confronting death so directly.
He talks about working through his fear of death there. What kind of insight do you think comes from that kind of intense, visceral experience?
Well, witnessing the cycle of life and death so openly, it must be a powerful, direct lesson in impermanence.
More than just reading about it.
Much more. It likely chips away at the illusion of a permanent self, deepens appreciation for life's fragility, and maybe lessens that fear of the body eventually ceasing.
Makes the Buddhist concept of impermanence very real, very tangible.
Exactly. And he also mentions the importance of chanting during these pilgrimages.
As a way to stay focused and mindful amidst everything.
Yes, cultivating that meditative state, even while traveling and dealing with intense experiences.
So finally, he reaches the goal. 3,000 hours.
A huge achievement. And it sounds like it wasn't just a personal
What
milestone.
do you mean?
Well, he describes this sense of shared spiritual effort, with friends and students joining in spirit, especially for the final hours.
That sense of connection again.
Yes. And then performing acts of gratitude, seeking forgiveness at the Bodhi tree. It shows the deep emotional and spiritual weight of the whole undertaking,
He uses that phrase, a passionate affair, with the practice in Bodhgaya.
which really captures the intensity, doesn't it?
Mm.
The deep engagement, the transformative power, but also maybe the demanding nature of it.
And acknowledging in the end that full liberation isn't typically a quick fix. It's a long journey.
A process over many lifetimes, according to the tradition. It puts even these incredible efforts into a larger perspective.
Okay, so if we try to pull the threads together,
Mhm.
what are the big takeaways from this deep dive into Ajahn Achalo's experience?
Well, first, the sheer impact of sustained, dedicated practice, really committing.
Yeah, that 3,000-hour number is staggering.
Then there's the unique nature of Bodhgaya itself, incredibly sacred, but also incredibly challenging, a real crucible.
And the need for perseverance. Just keep going, even through discomfort, noise, illness.
Patient endurance, exactly. And finally, how this deeply personal practice is still woven into community, into daily life, into dealing with the world around you. It's not separate.
Right, so connecting this back for you, the listener. If you're interested in learning effectively, maybe the lessons here are about that power of sustained focus.
Yeah, and cultivating that inner calm, even when things around you are chaotic. Finding peace amidst the noise, like Ajahn Achalo did with the pujas.
And also accepting that deep growth, spiritual, intellectual, whatever, it takes time. It requires dedication, patience.
It's usually not instant.
Which leads us to a final thought for you to consider. How could these principles, that unwavering dedication, that mindful awareness even when things are distracting, that sheer perseverance, how could they apply to your goals?
Whether it's learning something new, personal growth, or any project that really matters to you.
And maybe also ponder this. What if you approached your everyday life with that kind of mindful intention? Could ordinary actions become a sort of sacred pilgrimage in themselves?
That's a powerful idea to reflect on. How bringing intention and awareness changes things. We definitely encourage you to think more about these themes.
Perhaps even check out Ajahn Achalo's writings yourself if this sparked your interest.